Welcome back to Bandwagon fans. This is Jeff, and if you haven't got a chance, you can go ahead and take a look at my 9 worst movies of 2018. But for this list, it's going to be much happier moments. So this is the 9 best movies of 2018. You might be asking why 9 instead of 10, and I'm just kind of lazy. Actually, well, that's part of it. Also, for my graphical package that I'm using, only goes to 9 for some reason, so that's what I'm going to work with. I do have several honorable mentions as well, so it's more like a list of 14 movies, but really who's counting? Until we get to 9, then we'll start counting. So this has been, 2018 is my first year of doing these reviews, and I'm really happy that I started doing this channel. I'm really happy I started doing these reviews, pushing myself to go out and see more movies, 61 altogether, including a lot of movies that I would have completely skipped and never would have seen. Several of them are going to be on this list. This year I got past the just waiting for Marvel or Star Wars to release a movie or DC. And I really pushed myself to go to some of the smaller independent movies, and it was quite rewarding. So really excited about a lot of the movies I saw, and excited to be talking about them right now. So without further ado, here are some of the honorable mentions of the best movies of 2018. So first up, this is Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs. Now, when I did the review for this, I really screwed the pooch on this one. See what I did there? But so I completely misread this movie. I misread Wes Anderson's attention to Japanese culture as I was watching this movie, and even as I was watching it, and I felt like I was not watching it correctly. Like I wasn't, like I felt like I was missing something, and some research afterwards confirmed that suspicion. So I'm actually really looking forward to going back and watching this movie again. It was an absolutely beautiful movie. The style of animation, I'm really intrigued by, and hope that more people pursue this, although I don't think many people will nail it quite as well as Wes Anderson did. So honorable mention, Isle of Dogs. Looking forward to seeing it again. So next honorable mention. This is another movie with a soft spot in my heart, because this is the first solo review I did. I had to restart this. It's Thoroughbreds. And I remember doing the review, I had to restart probably 7 or 8 times because I was so nervous talking on camera alone without somebody to talk to, just looking at a camera and talking. And quite frankly, it's still kind of a little nerve-wracking. But anyways, Thoroughbreds was kind of a mix between American Psycho and Heathers, and it's just a movie whose sensibilities I really appreciated. I really enjoyed this movie. One of those movies that I would not have seen in years past. Might have caught it on Netflix later on, but really glad I actually got to go out and watch this one. So that's an honorable mention for Thoroughbreds. Next up for honorable mention, this is one of the last movies of 2018. There's actually a couple that are going to appear on this list, but this first one is Spiderman-Into the Spider-Verse. I saw this a couple weeks ago. In some ways, I think it's getting a little overrated, but it is an amazing movie. I personally have a hard time comparing animation to live action. I think they're two separate things. So it's really hard to say that Into the Spider-Verse is better for me than, say, Spider-Man Homecoming. But I do recognize how well put together this movie was, how smart it was, how funny it was. The animation was spectacular. So as animated movies goes, this is as good as it gets. It's just, for me, it wouldn't make the top 10 lists because I personally put live action ahead of animation. But Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, an excellent movie, definitely worthy of this honorable mention. All right, rolling right along. Next for our honorable mention, this is, again, one of the last movies, actually the last movie I saw in 2018, and that is the Dick Cheney biopic Vice. This one easily could go higher up on the list and actually make the top 9, maybe even top 5 for me. But some of the editing choices they made, that Adam McKay made, is a little bit problematic in that it's so trying to associate Dick Cheney with certain historical things that may or may not be accurate. So this is a movie that really requires some reflection and some fact checking. for me to really evaluate how I feel about it. Coming out of this movie, I was actually halfway through the movie, I was like almost nauseous and angry about some of the historical things that were covered. And that's a credit to the movie, not a fault. It definitely changed my perspective on some people that I had given a pass on in the past. And that's why I really want to go back and reevaluate this movie, just because my reaction to it was so strong. I want to make sure that I'm not in the wrong for how strong my reaction was. But Vice, for better or for worse, that's to be determined. Definitely an impactful movie, and that's why it's here as an honorable mention. All right, last of the honorable mentions, and this would have made my top 10 list if I was actually doing a top 10 list. I really wanted to be on the list, but I also have to recognize it's not a particularly good movie. This is the remake of the movie Overboard. So this is the Anna Faris remake. I just love this movie. I love it for its existence. I'm going to be talking about it a little bit later on in another video, but all of its problems, and it's a B movie comedy, but because of its multiculturalism and multilingualism, and not hanging a lampshade on those aspects, but just its existence spoke so much to what I love about the modern world and what I love about America. I just absolutely love this movie, all its flaws notwithstanding. So should have been on the list, easily could have been on the list, but there's a lot of really good movies already on the list, so that's why this one gets an honorable mention. Now we're actually to my top 9 movies, and at number 9, this is a comedy that absolutely took me by surprise, and that is the John Cena vehicle Blockers. I was expecting this to be a dumpster fire when I went in, but I was laughing hysterically throughout the entire movie. And John Cena was great. It had a really good sex positive and feminist message that spoke to my core, and it's kind of the Seth Rogen style of humor. Definitely had body humor, potty humor, but within a movie with such an amazing positive message that the message lifted it above its material and made it that much better. So for me, number 9, Blockers, one of the best comedies of the year. All right, at number 8, this is another really good comedy that came out of nowhere for me, and that is The Death of Stalin. This movie was so well written, so smart, so sharp. The satire was spot on. I hadn't heard anything about this movie before I went and saw it, and there's not too many reviews out for it. It kind of flew under the radar, but if you get a chance to watch this, go back and watch it. Definitely takes a piss out of communism and authoritarian regimes in general, and has something to say about our modern society. So a big surprise, hilarious. Go check it out. Number 8, The Death of Stalin. All right, at number 7, this is a movie that I kind of wish I had room further on the list, like maybe a 4B or a 5B. Scariest movie of the year for me, and that is A Quiet Place. The way they used sound to build tension and then release tension was masterful. Absolutely loved this movie. Held my breath to almost the point of suffocation several times, and was on the edge of my seat. I don't get scared by movies very often anymore. But for this was probably the scariest movie I've seen since The Shining. Maybe there's something in between then, but probably not. This was just a brilliant movie. Loved it. The tension, just a very similar conceit that Don't Breathe had, but this movie just never let up on that concept. So one of the best movies of the year, scariest movie of the year by far, and that is, for me, number 7, A Quiet Place. All right, at number 6, this was actually the first movie that Jason and I reviewed together, one that could have easily been higher up on this list, but at some point somebody's got to lose out, and this is the Marvel movie, MCU movie, Black Panther. The cultural impact of this movie cannot be overstated. So if you're looking back at 2018 and looking at the most important movies of the year, Black Panther is probably number one, maybe two or three at worst. But, not long after this movie came out, I had the opportunity to shoot a fashion show here in Tucson, and the Afrocentric fashion was on full display. The Wakanda Forever motif was in full force. An absolutely brilliant movie, showed what you can do when you pay attention to the villain. Also showed what you can do when you kind of introduce the hero in more of a group movie, so that you can spend more time developing the villain. And just a phenomenal movie. I've seen it a few times now. Looking forward to seeing it again. Looking forward to seeing the sequel. Just a really great movie. Even with some of the CG issues in the third act, but overall this was a brilliant movie. Really excited that it's part of the MCU now. So that's for me number 6, Black Panther. All right, at number 5, this is the latest Spike Lee movie, BlacKkKlansman. I haven't caught all of Spike Lee's movies, but I've seen enough to know how much I appreciate him as a filmmaker. He's one of the strongest voices in America, one of the most important voices in American film, and BlacKkKlansman did not disappoint. One of his best movies ever. I was really looking forward to seeing this. The movie did not disappoint. It was emotional. It was hilarious when it needed to be. It would get you angry when it was time to get angry. Spike Lee was just a master of extracting from the audience whatever he wanted and telling this really, really amazing and quirky story in American history. So number 5, one of the best movies of the year, BlacKkKlansman. All right, number 4. This was a movie that I did not hear much about. I saw a couple of the trailers and was so intrigued by the trailers that I really made it a point to go see this. And this is Sorry to Bother You. Very similar in theme to BlacKkKlansman. Hit on some of the same issues, particularly in regards to subverting one's identity or suppressing one's identity. But this one was a full-on assault on capitalism and unfettered capitalism. The whole movie was over the top, surreal satire. And by the end of the movie, it just went to places that you would never, ever be able to predict. And I was along the ride the whole way. I don't remember who it was. I think it was somebody on Collider Videos that said this felt like a movie made by somebody who knew he would never be allowed to make a movie again. And that's exactly what it felt like. That was a great description. Let's see, I've got it up there. Sorry, I was looking at the case of it over there. Just a brilliant movie, so much fun. And a really, really strong, impactful, intelligently articulated message critiquing modern American society and capitalism in particular. If you missed it, go back, check this one out. Just be prepared to be confused for some of it, but just sit back, enjoy the ride. It's worth it. So that is for me number 4. Sorry to Bother You. Here we have at number 3. This is a movie that, when looking at the trailers, I didn't think the movie was gonna hit me particularly well, but I did actually go out and see it, and that is Tully. I enjoyed this movie so much. I went back. I think I saw it 2 more times. I think I saw it 3 times. Did 2 different videos about it. One of the videos I would recommend the most, or movies I would recommend the most out of 2018. To watch multiple times. It was like an onion. And every time I watched it, I saw something else I had missed earlier, found a new layer to it. Talking to Scott, when we did our review, there were things he noticed that I missed and vice versa. But this is one of those movies that made me want to talk about it and just talk about movies in general. Charlize Theron was masterful in it, as she always is, and just one of the best movies of 2018 for me. Number 3, and that's Tully. All right, number 2, we have a movie that had me in tears before the opening credits were done. That is the Fred Rogers biopic, Won't You Be My Neighbor? So going into this movie, I had seen the trailer so many times, and every time I saw the trailer, I was like, come on, you're going to make me cry before I watch like Avengers or before I watch Deadpool. And here I am getting ready to cry over a stupid trailer. And the movie was unrelenting in affecting me personally. And I know Scott, I saw it with Scott as well. And both of us were just in tears, literally before the opening credits ended. Mr. Rogers, it was a very simple film about a person who was just decent. And that's really all you can really say about him. He was just a decent, kind man. And in a world now where decency seems to be gone forever, it was a reminder of what we have lost in recent years. Nostalgia can be a blessing or a curse. And in this case, this was the most nostalgia-filled thing I've ever seen, and it was a huge blessing to having seen it. Even though it did make me feel like a 3-year-old crying in my mother's lap. But Won't You Be My Neighbor? If you missed it, go back and watch it. Just a beautiful movie about a beautiful man. So my number 2, Won't You Be My Neighbor? All right, and here we go. Here is number 1, my best movie, my favorite movie of 2018. It was also, going into 2018, my most anticipated movie, the thing I was most excited about, and that is, of course, as you can guess, possibly by the t-shirt, Avengers Infinity War. Got everybody there. I got my mug here, my little cup here from the fan viewing. I got a little coin somewhere. It's actually, I have the fan coin that's on display with all my military coins at work. It's 5-10 years from now. We're going to be looking at Avengers Infinity War and hopefully Avengers Endgame, and marveling at the brilliance of the Russo brothers in packing as much as they did in this movie. Now, granted, the movie had a huge assist from the 18 movies that preceded it, where all the previous 18 movies could do all the heavy lifting on character development, and Avengers Infinity War was just, from the opening moment, action. Characters in a blender, throw everything at them, see how they respond. And if you followed the entire MCU, you could follow what they were doing based, you could follow their character moments based on what you'd seen in the past. But even if you hadn't seen all those movies, you could still come in and understand who was who, what they were doing, what the stakes were. It's just, I don't think you can overstate how brilliant the script was. And it's almost like an engineering feat. How, if you bought a home gym or something, actually seeing the home gym built is one thing. But when you pack it all up into a little box, and you're like, who got paid to engineer taking all these disparate parts and packing them into one little tiny box? And that dude must have been the guy who figured out how to pack a home gym into a box is probably smarter than the guy who actually built the home gym. And that's the way Avengers Infinity War was. Throw out all the rule books, all the screenwriting rule books of how to develop character, how to develop a story. They basically had to invent a new way of storytelling through film for this movie, and they knocked it out of the park. I'm not going to go into all the characters because this is already too long of a video, but every single character got a moment to shine, even the majority of the villains. And then taking Thanos, this big purple grape looking ridiculous character, and actually giving him a pathos, actually giving him a motivation. And you don't have to agree with his motivation. You don't have to think that it's particularly logical. you just have to agree that within the context of the movie, it was believable that he bought his motivation, and they definitely nailed that part of it. So a brilliant movie, absolutely loved it. Gonna be watching this for 5, 10, 20 years down the road. Just a brilliant movie. Looking forward to Endgame, and that's it. That is the list. So number 1 was Avengers Infinity War, and last thoughts on 2018. It was fun, and really looking forward to 2019. I've already put together a new introduction to our videos. So looking forward to debuting that in the first week of the year. I've got a couple other videos that are coming out here at the end of the year. One is the worst of list, and then another video that I'm just calling kind of a time capsule. Just the 7 movies that I think, good or bad, best represent America in 2018. So if you wanted to point to somebody and say, hey, this is what my country was like in 2018, watch these 7 movies. So check out the links for those down below. As always, like and subscribe to the channel. I just do this for the fun of it. I enjoy movies. I enjoy talking about movies, and hopefully you guys get some enjoyment out of watching me ramble on for a while. So 2018 is done. Bring on 2019. Bring on Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home, and all the other fantastic movies that I'm sure are going to come out. And unfortunately, there's going to be some other ones. But thanks for watching. I'm Jeff. Get on the bandwagon.